So we're going to be talking about running gait today. We talked about walking gait beforehand. We went to talking about running because obviously we not only do we walk, but sometimes we run. Maybe not as often as we would like, but we do. So running gait, it is a little bit different than walking. As you know, when you're walking, you're going to be kind of pushing off your foot and you have at least one foot on the ground at all times. Now, when you're running, you will never have both feet on the ground at any point in time. So balance, of course, is important, but gait is just as important because you want to make sure that you have your balance, obviously, but you also want to make sure that when you're moving, you're not putting undue stress on joints that don't need it. So first and foremost, what you want to think about is when you're actually taking that step on your gait, you want to make sure that that foot does go out in front of you. Now, when we talked about walking gait, your heel's not necessarily going to be landing underneath your body like it does with the walking gait. Your heel might go out a little bit in front of you. That is so that you can roll off your heel, roll off the ball of your foot, and push off. All right. It's slightly in front of your knee. It's not necessarily directly in your knee, and it's definitely not way out in front of you. Obviously, you're going to be landing with a straight leg, and that's going to cause some irreparable damage to your knee. So you want to have that foot or that heel slightly in front of your knee, and you want to make sure that you're pushing off the heel of your foot and then the ball of your foot. You want to essentially imagine your foot as the bottom of a rocking chair. All right, so you don't necessarily get the back of your heel on the ground. You get the very first point of your heel. So the point that is the front of your heel, I should say, and then it goes into your forefoot, and then you push off the ball of your foot. Okay. Now, when you're walking, it's a little bit different. If you want to know more about that, you can refer to our video on walking gait. So running, obviously, you want to make sure that you have your feet situated. We're going to move up the body a little bit, and we're going to be talking about your hips. Hip flexor strength is very important when it comes to your running gait. You see, when you're running, as it differs from your walking, you're going to be lifting your knees a little bit higher. So what's important to have is hip flexor strength. You want to make sure that you can lift your knee up, and what you do is you want to strengthen those hip flexors by doing a couple exercises that we'll be talking about now. One great exercise you can do is just a basic knee lift. You just stand and lift your knees up, or you can do it from a laying position. Both those exercises are great for strengthening your hip flexors. Now, one thing that many people aren't really aware of, you kind of think about it, but not so much in the context of where your hip flexors are located in your body. It's a bit of a misnomer. Your hip flexors are not necessarily in your hip. They actually originate in your lower back. Okay, so there's this thing called the iliacus as well as your psoas. You have psoas major and psoas minor, and you have your iliacus. These two muscle groups are located on your lumbar spine. What that is the lower spine. It's the very lower part of your spine, and that connects to your back, or those muscles connect to your back, and they run right along your hip, and they roll right into the front of your hip. So that being said, you want to make sure that you have good lower back strength so that you can have that origination of the lifts be strong, and you want to have strong hip flexors or strong hips so that you can maintain that posture. All right. So many times I've seen people that don't have strong hip flexors, meaning that lower back muscle that I was just talking about. They don't lift their knees high enough, and what happens when you do that is that you can't extend your leg out all the way, and what happens is that you end up putting a lot of pressure on your knees. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of strength in your knee or in your hips as well as your lumbar spine. So as I said, those exercises you can do, you lay on your back, lift your knees up, or stand up, lift your knees up. Those are great for the front of your hips. Now, one great thing you can do for your actual back to strengthen your lumbar spine or strengthen your lumbar region of your back is a back extension. Very simple. All you would do is you lay on your stomach and you literally just lift your chest up as high as you can off the ground. What it'll do is it's going to help you stabilize your spine as you're lifting your knees up. See, the thing is that what happens when with a lot of people when they don't have strong hip flexors is they lean back to lift their knee up. So essentially what you're doing is when you're running, you're leaning back and you're putting a lot of pressure, a lot of stress on your lumbar spine. Just imagine every step that you're taking, your spine has to compress so that it can absorb that shock. But if your spine is already compressed, well, then all that pressure is going to go into your vertebrae. And you don't want to have pressure on your vertebrae, believe me. So those are essentially the two things that you want to work on when you want to strengthen your hip flexors and with respect to your running gait. There's a lot of other exercises we can talk about, but I want to keep it basic for you because obviously this is This is a 5 movement series, meaning that we're going to have quite a few things that we can talk about or we can address. So try those 2 exercises out. Hopefully they work out for you. If they don't, well, feel free to reach back out to us and check out our next videos because we'll most likely be addressing any of those issues in the near future. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. If it brought you value, feel free to share this. Also, we'd love to hear your comments and questions. You can put them down below in the comment section. I do appreciate you watching, and if you want to see more of us, feel free to click that subscribe button and you'll be notified when the next video comes out and we answer your questions. Thanks again for watching and listening, and as always, keep good company.
That's awesome!